Welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to have a look at layouts. Layouts in DocGova are basically the architecture of your application. They are the underlying structure of your application, used to sort of contain views or data tables and menus and charts and counter boxes and stuff like that, so that you can put together your application the way that you want to. So we're going to have a look at a little layout demo application. You can see on the top left there, just to go over how it works and some of the things that you could do. This isn't an extensive overview of layouts in terms of all that you can do with the object model and the APIs and the formula language and stuff, but at least the point and click stuff and just the concept behind the layouts. So I have this little layout demo application, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to open it up, and you'll see when I open it up, on the left hand side there's a menu, and it's sort of a categorized, has two categories and menu items underneath each of these, and that menu is in a left hand side frame. And then I have a page, and really this is like an HTML page. It's not a form or view or chart or anything, it's just a plain page, colored ugly, just so you can see what's going on easily. But the page on the right hand side is in another frame, and you'll notice that the application opened into this layout. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip over to the workspace here, and I'm going to go into the layout demo application in the app builder so we can have a look at the design. When we go into the design here, on the left-hand side, so on the left-hand side in the app builder, as we've gone through, are all the applications, the latest applications that I've had open in the app builder. And I'm going to go to the layout demo, and underneath here, we're going to be looking at layouts here. So when I click on layouts, you'll see I have three layouts in this application. There's the main one, and L2 for layout 2, and L3 for layout 3. So in the main, when I open that up, you'll see that I just have two panes or two frames in here. On the left hand side frame, I've put a menu. So if we go over to the right hand side here, you'll see the properties, so frame properties at the top here. So you give the frame a name, and that makes it addressable by other frames and by other elements in DocGova. And you can specify, but you don't have to, the default target for the links in the frame. So for a menu, when you click on any menu item, you can say the default links, so what other frame to target on your screen. You can say by default target, that other frame. So in this case, I've said I'm going to put a menu in the left hand side, so I want the default for the links in that left hand side menu to target the right hand side frame, so where page A is. So every time I click on something on the menu, that it opens that thing in that other frame. If I click on that frame, the frame is called FRA frame 2, the target of FRA frame 1. You'll see I don't have any default targets for that because whatever is going to land in there, I don't care. The thing to note though is that this is just a place where I can put a default target for other frames to open things in. So if I wanted to open a chart in some frame that I have, or another menu, or another page of information or something somewhere, I can target the different frames that I've brought onto the screen in the architecture of my application. But you'll also see that when you're putting menus together on a menu item, you can there decide what frame to target and stuff like that. So there's different places where you can point and click and have the opportunity to target different things in your application, just as an easy way to put it together. And you'll see any application that you use has this kind of structure. They have different frames in which objects or elements of that application open into those frames. To go over some of the frame properties on the right hand side here, we have something called quick width, and what that allows us to do is each of these frames, I can add new frames onto a layout. So if I click this button up in the top right here, I can add a new frame here, and I can add something to it. And sometimes you'll want 4 frames in a row, like in a column, or however you jig it. And the quick width just allows you to automatically say, take a quarter of the space up, or take a half of the space, or a third, so that you're not, just resizing all these frames and spending time trying to get them just right. You can say, oh, do a quarter, or half and half, and that sort of thing. And we do that both for width and height, so it's just a lot quicker and easier to do. Allow the frames to scroll is a checkbox. Sometimes in the content, you want, it might overflow your frame, and you might want the user to be able to scroll that overflow or not. And then the content part here. So let me just close it and reopen it quickly here, just so I can get it back to what it was. You'll see in frame 1, when I select that frame and it's got the dotted line around it, or dashed line, it says content here. And in this case, I said select a menu, and I could open a view in there, or a page, or a layout, or a form. In this case, I said open up a menu, and when you do that, it gives you a list of menus that you have in your application. In this case, I only have one called main menu, and so I selected that, and you can see it shown in the left-hand frame there. On the right-hand frame, what I've done is I said open a page. So in the properties here, I said open a page, and you'll see that I have a number of pages in this application. You'll see why. I'll go through it in a second. And I said just open page A here. Open a tab. So this gets a little bit more advanced in terms of if you want to open like view contents or like data grids into a tabbed interface or not, for opening subsequent documents or other information, or not. There's some scenarios where you don't want to have that construct, and to program that can get quite sophisticated. And in our years of developing applications, we've come across wanting to do one or the other. You'll see when you create your applications that this comes into play often. And then a tab title, if it does open into a tab, and so on. Another thing I'm going to say here is there's a little thumbs up here in the thing. If I go back into the layout here, you'll see that not only did I give the layout a name when I first created it, but it's a starting layout, default layout for the application, because we can have multiple layouts that we change our application dynamically with. But in this case, I'm going to say this is the starting or the default layout. So when you initially open the application, this is the first layout that opens up. Okay, I'm going to show you these other two layouts just quickly. They're very simple. This is L2, so you can see on the right-hand side, I called this layout L2, simple. And I have another just web page called page B with some text in it, and page C in it. So just simple, just so that you can see what happens when I click on a few things. And L3 is the same kind of thing, except I have side-by-side frames in this layout. Now, another quick thing I'm gonna go and show you here in the properties of the application is in the properties, there's this option here that says launching application layout. So although this layout is set as default, or when this my certain main layout was set as default, in the properties of the application, you'll see that that main layout has been selected here as the default. All right, now I can also go back here, through here, or through the layout interface. I could change the default layout to be one of the other layouts that I have in the application. There's also the option for a formula, so I could click here on a formula, and I could enter using the DocOva formula language. I could say, or I could choose programmatically what layout to open the application in, so that I can give different user experiences to different groups of users. So the administrators of the application could have a different look than somebody else, or HR's application could have a different look for the HR people than it does for just regular staff and that stuff. So you can play with that, or even internal people. And if you use kiosk mode in DocOva and you have an external application that your suppliers or that your customers are coming through to, they could have a different interface to the application than you have internally. So there's a lot of flexibility there. And one of the things that truly makes DocOva easy to use, easy to set this kind of complexity up, but you have that kind of complexity and help you do what you need to do in your applications. Okay, so we've looked at the two layouts, and just quickly I'm going to go to the pages. You can see that I just created a few pages. Page A, just a simple page, and we're going to go over pages in more detail later, but this is just like an HTML. It's not really, but it is like an HTML page. You can put any HTML you want into it. And we have, of course, easy stuff to, typical stuff you'd want to put into a page, into an application, for example. So here's just a simple page with some text on it that says page A, and that's all these are. Okay, page B, page C, page D. And all I've done is I've put a gaudy color behind it and put it into a layout so you can watch layouts change as I put it together. And I have one view in here. You'll see it's called View A. And that view just basically is something to show as you change the frame. You'll see that. Really has no usefulness to it aside from showing you changing elements in the application here. And then of course the menu that I showed you on the left hand side that I'm using in the left frame. So you can see here that I have View A and it's opening the View A view. So when we click on View A, we're going to see the View A view that we just looked at. And down below, when I say Open Layout 2, it's going to open the layout, which itself has the pages in it. And we're going to open Layout 2 and Layout 3. So you can see here it's L2, and here it's L3, just like we looked at. So really pretty straightforward, right? Hopefully this isn't too fast. Okay, and so let's go back to the layout here. Again, I'm going to click on it to open it. You'll see we get our initial layout. This is the main layout with the menu on the left-hand side and page A page on the right-hand side. And if I click on View A, I click on it. Remember our default target is to the frame 2 frame. And so we see the View A view come up here. That just has a dummy document in it. And if I expand the menu over here on the left-hand side, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open Layout 2. And again, I'm targeting that frame on the right-hand side. So right now, that frame has the view in it, but I'm going to change it to have a different frame inside of it. So now I have the main frame, and on the left-hand side, I have the menu still in my first frame, and on the second frame, I have another layout inside that frame with 2 frames in it. And in each of those frames, page B and page C. All of these things are still addressable through the formula language, through the options in our design elements, and through our API. And now if I click on Open Layout 3, I'm going to open up the third layout that I showed you with page D and page E in it, but now that layout is opening inside a frame that I chose down here in the second frame, right? So now you can see that I've been able to open different layouts that have frames that have different content in each of them in different parts of my application, and I can keep doing this. And all those frames, as long as they're uniquely named, are all accessible. You don't have to do, if you're a programmer, you know that in order to access an embedded frame all the way down, you have to sort of navigate through the whole thing with JavaScript and iterate through the document object model. But in DocGovo, we've made it more accessible to you so that you're just saying, open this element, this counter box or this chart or this view or this form or whatever in that frame. And it's that easy. You'll use this all the time in the applications that you develop. And it really makes it, or gives the users and developers the ability to be really creative with what they pull together as an application. Okay, so that's our layouts video, short and sweet. If you have any questions, comments, of course, comment below. Smash that like button, subscribe, always subscribe. And we'll catch you in the next one. Thanks.